Hi everyone, thanks for being with me. We're going to talk today about politicians' bad behaviour. I must confess, one of my favourite topics. Now, as a student of parliamentary behaviour, that is someone who watches Question Time on a regular basis, which goes to show that I haven't got all that much happening in my life. I'm going to make some comments about this new legislation that they're planning to pass in relation to changing, manipulating, confronting and eradicating bad behaviour. But before I do that, I just want you to know that it'd be really helpful if you subscribe to my channel, ring the bell for further notifications, and because it will all help me. So I'd really appreciate that as well. So one of the issues that has arisen over, well, I guess we could say decades, and I remember when Paul Keating would behave in ways that one could only describe as abusive, clever, funny, but nevertheless abusive. And he would do it in a way which was cutting and poignant, but whichever way you cut it, it wasn't helpful. And there have been times, I think, when politicians have responded to questions and made statements that were just plain clever. But politics has moved way beyond the cleverness, whatever that word is, now to something that actually is quite harmful. And as a result of that and our changing values and attitudes, I guess, in the way we conduct ourselves socially and so on, I guess, means that things have changed. And as a result of that, some of the things that people say and do in Parliament should not be tolerated. And I guess some of this came out recently where Sally Steggall was accused Peter Dutton of being racist. Now, I'm not going to buy into that racist stuff here, even though I do believe that he is a wee bit, but nevertheless, let's not buy into that too much. Let's just talk about the issues here. So there is an article on this on the ABC, which kind of highlights what this is about. And it says, in short, new laws introduced by the federal government could see MPs fined, kicked off committees and even suspended. The laws will increase the consequences for politicians and members of staff who engage behaviour. So the new legislation for the long-awaited Parliamentary Standards Commission is due to be unveiled today. That was the other day, last week. Federal MPs could be fined up to 5% of their salaries, kicked off powerful parliamentary committees and even suspended from Parliament under new laws to be introduced to the federal government. The government will unveil legislation for the long-awaited Parliamentary Standards Commission, which will significantly ratchet up the consequences for politicians and members of staff who engage in bad behaviour. And this also applies to people who are in the gallery, so anybody who misbehaves, and also to commentators and to journalists. So if they're in Parliament and they're in that building, then they're subject to the same rules and regulations. But of course, there are people who object to this. Now, it is no surprise that the objections for this particularly come from the right, and particularly in this instance from Susan Lee. So Susan Lee says that the Deputy Opposition Leader, Susan Lee, says the coalition makes no apology for its passion-filled performance in Question Time as parliamentary workplace behaviour is once again in the spotlight. Now, as I said before, as a student of watching Parliament, Susan Lee would have to be one of the most aggressive individuals that you can imagine next to Peter Dutton. But the interesting thing is, my observation is that over the last couple of parliamentary question times, that is the last month or so, because I've had a break, Susan Lee seems rather, I guess the word is sedated. She is nowhere near as aggressive in her tone. So it isn't that she's asking questions, even though she's asking fewer questions than what she had been previously. And I think that was strategically designed in order to take her out of the spotlight, so the spotlight wasn't specifically on her, so that she could then come back and make comments such as the one that we have here. So she says, and I really like this quote, that she says that they're passion-filled performances in Question Time. Passion-filled. Well, there's no disputing that they are full of passion, but they don't have to be abusive of others as well, because there was this famous comment whereby Zali Steggall, pardon me, is told that she's being racist. So I'll just bring this up. So West Australian Senator Linda Reynolds is already embroiled in a bruised defamation fight against staff of Brisbane Higgins. We all know that. Now, opposition leader Peter Dutton reportedly considered suing independent MP Zali Steggall after she told him to stop being racist. Now, my take on this is that it flows over from, you can say whatever you like in Question Time, but now you can't say whatever you like in Question Time because it can be deemed abusive. But if you say that outside of Parliament, where you don't have parliamentary privilege, well, clearly it's a different issue. And you can, as a result of that, find yourself before the courts. Now, I think that this thing is likely to blow out into something whereby, as I've said before, a lot of these people, like Reynolds, and like Ben Roberts-Smith and others, they wind up shooting themselves in the foot when they decide that they have been defamed, and they take people to court. Now, whether this is likely to become part of the continuing process in relation to this all remains to be seen. But the bottom line is that many of them actually behave pretty badly. And to demonstrate this, they've come up with, in The Guardian, they've come up with an example, and I think this is kind of fascinating in itself, because here we have a number of times that people have been kicked out of Question Time. Now, this is a bit like being in kindergarten or school and sent to the naughty corner. No one likes getting kicked out of Question Time because it's a rap over the knuckles by the principal, in this case, Milton Dick. And as a result of all of this, some of these people have been embarrassed considerably. Now, fascinatingly enough, as we look down this list, we'll see that the Liberals are the primary. Now, I haven't got any statistics on what happens when Labor Party is in opposition, so bear that in mind. But Michael Sukkar is the main offender in this area. It has been kicked out 20 to 28 times. That's pretty good going. That's almost once a week he'd get kicked out. In fact, it's probably more than once a week. Henry Pike and so on. And then we get down to Graham Perrott, who's been kicked out 9 times. Then we have a whole host of Liberals. We have Matt Burnell from Labor, and then we have a couple more from... But the interesting thing is no independents or Greens have been kicked out. So the bad behaviour is clearly coming from the Liberal National Party with a splattering from Labor. So, and in general, my assessment is that Albanese's government has been pretty calm in dealing with some of the assaults that have been coming from the Liberals. So 10 out of 10 for you guys for all of that. So let me know what you think. I don't know if any of you ever watch Parliament House, but it's kind of like fascinating. It's a bit like watching a real life TV show whereby we know all the characters and are intrigued by the behaviour. So it's kind of like watching something live that is actually about how people are behaving, and generally how people are behaving badly. So if you watch any of that and you'd like to comment below and make some comment about the way you see politicians and the way they're behaving generally, I'll be really most interested to know. In the meantime, take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.